Hi, and welcome back to Real Life Advice by Tammy B, featuring none only than me, Tammy B. This episode is going to focus on not my best teaching experience. In fact, it's quite an embarrassing one, but one that really brought some advice to younger teachers at the time. At this time, I was co-teaching all day long. And I know I've talked about being a self-contained teacher, but co-teaching is where you go into the classroom and it's like it's a regular ed classroom and then they have a certain amount of special ed kids. But in my case, they had a whole lot of special ed kids and then they had a whole lot of students that had behavior issues. And what I did this particular year is I had 6 different teachers that I would go into the classroom. So every hour was a different teacher. And a lot of the hours I had a lot of the same kids. I basically just followed this group of kid, not necessarily all SPED kids. This group of behavior issues and so forth. And every time I'd go to the next class, I'd usually get there a little late because our building was huge and I'd be at one end of the building and then back down at the other end. And I'd get to the door and the teacher that I would have that hour to go, oh, this is my worst hour of the day. And I'm like, yep, it's my all day long. So this happened to be the last hour of the day. And this particular incident featuring this student, I had this student 3 times a day. And he was not a delight. I did like him, but things he did were hard to like sometimes. But at this particular time, it was a 7th grade history class that I was in. And there happened to be a student teacher at the time. And so my job was basically to keep the kids from, not interrupting. It was a lecture. They were taking notes, I believe. And I was across the room dealing with one behavior issue when I noted that this student was aggravating the student behind him, both of which were special ed kids. So I walked over with proximity control and thought, well, I'll stand near him and they'll know to stop the nonsense. Well, he did not. And what he was doing was clicking a pin, which seems minute, but when you have a class of 30 kids and he continued to click and to continue to click, and this girl that was sitting behind him had also been with him all day long, just like me. And he had done much more aggravating things throughout the day. This was just kind of like the icing on the cake. So anyway, I walk over and he continues to click the pin continuously. Click, 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 like driving the girl nuts. And she screams at the time. And she was not a behavior issue in any way, shape, or form. But she'd had her fill that day. And she screamed, she said, stop clicking the pin! And he just continued. It's like it amplified it 25 times faster. So I went over and I said, give me the pin. And of course, he was moving it around and I was trying to grab it. And I was very aggravated, and it had been a very, very long day. Not trying to make excuses for the next action. But I looked down. Now, mind you, the pin that he's clicking is one that I gave him. The shoes that he's wearing are shoes that I had given him. And the backpack that he's carrying is a backpack that I had given him. And I'm not really certain what happened next. And again, not a proud moment in my life. But when I came to, I was across the room and I had a backpack. It was like a satchel bag, with drawstring bag in my hand, and all the contents of it were on the floor. And what I can best remember is that I said, well, I'm going to take my backpack. If you're not going to give me my pen, I'm going to take my backpack. And I dumped his backpack out and took the backpack. Now, mind you, I did this in front of a class of 30 kids and a student teacher. So the lead teacher, or the teacher whose classroom it was, he took the kid and took him down to the office. I, in which, got all his stuff that I had dumped out and put back in the backpack. And embarrassed, and I apologized to the class, and I walked out down to the office. Well, then I walked in the office, and there sat the young man that I just dumped the backpack out. And oh my, I need to he dropped the F bomb several times throughout the whole incident. That was really what hyping the thing up. He said, "I'm not giving you the effing pen." So I go into the principal's office, or the assistant principal, and I pretty much paced back and forth and told him what I'd done, not proud of it. And I don't think he could really believe it either. And so I walked back outside of the office, and I handed this young man his backpack with all the contents, and I apologized and told him how unprofessional it was of me. And then, as I walked slowly down the hall, the bell rang, and I'm certain that I was topic of conversation in the lobby and on the buses. And I walked back in and told the student teacher who now teaches at my building, or at my where I retired. I told him, "Now that is exactly how not to behave. There's a lesson learned in everything. So take this lesson and move on. Do not ever behave this way in front of students." And of course, we all got a reasonably good laugh out of it, and it went on to be known as my backpack crazy moment. I'm not going to leave you with a lot of advice with this story. I think it's pretty much given. When you feel you're losing it, maybe walk out of the room instead of dumping a child's backpack out. Again, this has been Real Life Advice by Tammy B. Please tune in and live your best life.